Hi everyone, I'm Chameice Daniel and welcome to SoulFull Travel Adventures. And today we're going to have another Cosmic Blessing Q&A. I absolutely love these. The community sends in their questions and we get to dive right in. It feels more interactive. So it's a divine space to be in, participate with everybody. So one of the questions that has been arising a lot, not just within my community, but I know a lot of communities have been presented with why when so many people have been buying so many packages or doing so much work from a variety of different people, why does it seem like everything's kind of going backwards, especially this year? I know a lot of people have been talking about how they really feel like they're more stuck this year. And of course, some of that's, to be, it's just normal this year because of all of the weird lines that we have running. But also, I think it's really important to bring up the energetics of this year. So this year we have seen an immense amount of waves coming in. We really haven't had a normal spacer between the energetic waves coming in. They've just been back to back. So we've been perpetually releasing and expanding, releasing and expanding. So that in and of itself causes a little bit of wobble when we don't really have these nice little breaks to integrate. We're just kind of going from one extreme to the other very rapidly. And also, we need to take into consideration when we go through the release and expand process, what that actually means. So, when we expand, it means that energetically, we're becoming more sensitive because our sensitivity to energetics helps guide us into what resonates, what doesn't. Basically, sensitivity, we'll become more sensitive to all of the information around us so we can read it more clearly. But that also makes us more susceptible to being impacted by the toxicity of some of the energetics or the information that we're exposed to. And that can cause some overlays, some dissonance, a plethora of different things that can kind of cause a little white noise or a little static in hearing and seeing our truth. And so what I'm discovering a lot in sessions is I'm having to do a lot more clearing, a lot more unhooking, a lot of things in every single session that I used to see occasionally with people who really did their work. And this is again due to our sensitivity, our enhanced sensitivity. So we do need to take more care with our energetic management. We need to up our game a little bit, especially when we're exposed to so many lines of toxicity, such as fear or, a lot of the division, things like that, that we're experiencing this year. That's a really toxic energy to our middle path of our heart, where we just want to be in unconditional love and we want to be relaxed and centered and we just want to be in joy and bliss and things like that. So when we're exposed to all of these frequencies that are contradictory to what our natural resonance is within our heart, it can cause a lot of white noise. And so if we have a tendency to focus more on what's going on in the exterior and use those distraction points in our life, then we begin to line up into some of those things that are actually toxic. And so we can begin creating timelines that have a real deep frequency of fear or separation or things like that, instead of being in that more love unity consciousness that is natural to our heart space. So we always need to take into consideration the energetics of the collective when we're doing our work, and understand that if we're in a high exposure rate of toxicity, we need to up our game. We need to use some more of our clearing or protection protocols so we're not getting sucked into any of that. But then we also need to take into consideration that depending upon what we have going on in our lives, what we're being inundated with, things like that, our tools won't always work the same. So if you're listening to an MP3, you're using a crystal, you're using an oil, you're using anything as what we would call frequency medicine, not all of them are going to work the same depending on what that frequency you're being inundated with is riding on. So the frequency of what you're exposed to matters when you're using your other tools. And this year we have so many lines running at the exact same time that not only one of your tools is going to work like maybe they did before. And so that's where you got to shake it up. You got to fill into what it is that you need that day, what's going on, what are you being exposed to, what was the exact frequency, so you can find the opposing frequency, alchemy, and balance it out and create that neutrality again. And so also with all of these lines, what we also need to remember when we're advancing very quickly, when we're doing our work, right? When we're doing our shadow work to release and we're opening up that space to expansion, we're getting a little clearer about who we are and what we want to create in our lives. We're opening up to our gifts, as they say, our clairs, our intuition, energetic sensitivity to be able to energetically read the information, to discern what's in resonance and what's in not, to create a highly aligned trajectory and path that we want to create. We have to remember that with that advancement, that also generally means that we're moving up layers of dimensions, where, as they call it, we're going multidimensional. We're able to move between different dimensions, the third dimension, the fourth, fifth, sixth, depending on where you are. And you can easily slide in between those dimensions. And that's essentially what ascending means. Ascending means you're going up the dimensional ladder. You're able to access different dimensions. And without full knowledge and awareness of what all of that means, what every dimension represents, the energetics, how you can get there, and how to protect yourself when you're moving vibrationally up and down this ladder, you can leave yourself open to wandering into energetics or realms that aren't necessarily safe for you to move into quite yet if you don't understand them and know what's going on. And I'm seeing that happen a lot this year with people advancing very rapidly. They want to accelerate, they want to activate their gifts, they want to activate their full DNA potential. And they want to understand what their gifts and their clairs and all of that are. So they're taking a lot of classes, doing a lot of packages, reading a lot of books to advance, on top of being inundated with the energies this year that's causing a natural acceleration. And the only problem that I'm seeing is a lot of people aren't taught how to, one, focus their frequency. Focusing your frequency is ever so important, because if you can't hold a consistent and congruent frequency for what you're intending, then you're actually going to be energetically wandering all over the place, especially when you go multidimensional. And then if we have all of these lines of fear this year, especially around energy work, different people saying this is bad and this is good, that dissonance will be playing out in your mind, and you won't know who to trust. You won't know if, what divinity teams you can trust, what ascended masters you can trust. You can easily be misled by false light agents that claim to be someone they're not. They can claim to be Yeshua or Saint Germain or any of the ascended masters that you're following, but they're actually not, because you're not in a frequency to actually make that connection with that ascended master. So if your frequency is in dissonance, it's being pulled between two different frequencies because you're not maintaining focus, your mind is flipping through, I don't know if this is good or bad. And so you could actually be pulled into what we would call like a mirror realm, a false light or matrix realm, and it can be pretending to be something it's not. And so it's ever so important that we learn our frequency management and learn how to maintain our focus and our frequency. So when we do go multidimensional, we're doing it within our intended realms. So when we come right back after this short commercial break, we'll go a little deeper into understanding how to keep ourselves safe and protected while we're expanding and growing this year. Welcome back to Soulful Travel Adventures and our Cosmic Blessing Q&A, where we're discussing some of the wild cards this year of packages and tools that you use for energy management and why they may not be working as well as they used to. And this is causing a lot of people a lot of frustration trying to figure out what's going on this year. Why are my tools not working as well as they used to? Why do I feel like I'm taking 3 steps forward and 4 steps back? And so, as I was saying about frequency and focus being of the utmost importance, because that your frequency, depending on what you're focusing on, is, just think of it as it creates the road that you drive on. It's what takes you from point A to point B. So if you can't maintain that focus, if your mind wanders while you're meditating or while you're doing your energy work, then you're bringing in that winding road into your travels while you're working multidimensionally, whether you intend to or not. Most people don't realize light workers do this naturally, they're not even aware. One of the hardest things for light workers is breaking down their natural process so they can begin to learn to control it, because most light workers are just all over the place, picking things up, wandering, not even realizing that that's what they're doing, and they can't figure out why they're getting so many overlays or attachments or hooks or things like that. It's because they're a natural energetic wanderer. They go where they feel called. So if you don't know how to control it, then you're going into places and spaces that are detrimental to your growth, that can stagnate it or even throw you off track. You can pick up a lot of psychic debris, energetic debris. And so it's ever so important that we learn how to control our gifts. We learn how to manage our energetic frequency so that we can control where we're going and we make it beneficial. And we connect in with authentic members of our team and authentic companions within our journey. And so protection is vitally important, not from a fearful standpoint. We don't want to be afraid to go multidimensional because, as I just explained, the frequency of fear is detrimental. It will throw you off track. It'll attract more of fearful type frequencies, because that's what our frequency does, like attracts like. That's why it's ever so important. But we just need to use, I guess, common sense and understand that not everything out there is going to be good. There are things out there that want to waylay our progress, distract us, manipulate us, influence us. So we just want to be consciously aware that that does exist and you use proper protocols. And that's why for thousands of years within the mystery school dynamic, Initiates were taught the protocols for when they would advance, when they would ascend or go multidimensional and go up, the ladder, dimensional ladder, if you will. They were taught that. They were trained on how to do that. They were trained in psychic protection, energetic protection, so that they didn't pick up any attachments. One of the great stories is Yeshua's journey, and how Yeshua was, tempted for 40 days and 40 nights. If you look historically at a lot of sacred scriptures and texts, that's a very common theme, because as we ascend, we can, as our light gets brighter and brighter, because our energy is running so fast and so strong, we do have a high tendency to attract things that want to slow down that progression. Our light attracts them like moths to a flame, and they don't want us to ascend. They don't want the butterfly effect of those activations activating other people. They don't want us to go out into the world and lead other people into the middle path of the heart. And that's been a historic story throughout time, that all of these masters were tempted. They were influenced and manipulated and swayed. They had to pass all of the tests in order to become a master. And once they became a master, they began helping others through that journey, that were willing to take that journey authentically and really do the work. So now today we're seeing almost an instant gratification structure when it comes to moving through into mastery. And historically, that's never happened before. And so a lot of people are beginning to pick up a lot of psychic debris because they're moving through everything so quickly without understanding it. Again, listening to MP3s or taking a course or a class or things like that, they give them little tiny bits of nuggets of information, but they don't actually teach them how to control it, what it all means, so that they can discern for themselves and choose a path and use their frequency, basically have a map when they're going multidimensionally, instead they're just told how to get from point A to point B. And that's incredibly disempowering. And that's why a lot of people have begun to pick up a lot of attachments or hooks and get a little off track. And so we want to be really careful when we're choosing who to work with, and make sure that they themselves are holding the frequency that we desire. And generally, I look for a frequency of sovereignty, because when you have a master that's teaching you, they should be teaching you how to become sovereign, teaching you how to use your own gifts and not get stuck with their map, because a master's map only leads them from point A to point B based on their unique journey, their purpose, their passion, what they want to achieve in their life. It does not, that exact same map does not work for you. And so it's very important that they're teaching you specifically what everything means, how to protect yourself, how to create your own map to get from point A to point B congruently, without so many obstacles, without so many delays. And what makes your journey much, much easier. You're not stuck just listening to packages or MP3s or things like that, because that'll begin to waylay your advancement. You can get stuck. And I think that's a big part of what's going on this year, is so many people are advancing so quickly because of the natural energetic waves coming in, and that activating them, creating a desire for them to want to learn more and grow. And so they're taking classes or they're buying packages, but they're not actually being taught how to do things for themselves. What every part of your structure means, your energetic structure, your biological structure, mental, emotional structure, They're not being taught how to take care of their energy management, keep their chakras running, keep all of their helixes running, activate all of their helixes so they have access to the energetic input and output that they need to travel without becoming exhausted, without it taking a toll, especially on the nervous system or the endocrine system, which we're seeing a lot this year with autoimmune disorders. Um, I see that a lot in people that are traveling and doing things that they do not have the structure to hold enough energy to do it properly. And so it begins to wear out the physical vessel. I'm also seeing a lot of people with physiological issues due to psychic attacks or psychic attachments, things like that. And again, that's traveling to different places, and you get, a little psychic parasite. You get these little parasitic attachments that feed off of your energy and that can begin to drain your physical vessel, making it more and more difficult for people to advance. And so, it's ever so important that we understand and know what all of these tools mean and can use everything to protect ourselves as we travel. So, when we come right back after this short break, then we will dive into even more protocols we can use to protect our energy. Welcome back to Soulful Travel Adventures, where we're discussing ascension and how to protect yourself when you are moving multidimensionally and with all of these activations this year. So, as I was saying before, it's really important that we understand basically our boundaries and our limitations as we grow and expand, so we don't leave ourselves vulnerable to any psychic debris or psychic attacks or implants or a plethora of different things that we can see when we're moving through the spiritual realms. And one thing that I see a lot happening over the years, because so many people are talking about entities and attachments and things like that, it's became very intriguing for a lot of people. And so they're learning quite a bit about what all of those different types of attachments are. But what I'm also noticing is people are being taught maybe a little bit of a foundational practice around how to release entities or attachments or things like that. But I don't think people, unless you can really read the frequency or energy of something, if you haven't developed into that yet, my suggestion is it's best to leave all of that alone, because what I'm seeing is a lot of beginner energy healers are getting a lot of attachments. They're really going into some pretty intense battles with entities or attachments and hooks from those types of dynamics, because they're going in and they're trying to clear them, but they don't have the frequency management yet to actually do it, to actually push them out. So what they do is they come and go. A lot of people don't know how to close the doors. They don't know how to identify what type of attachment it is, what frequency is needed to release that attachment. They don't know how to hold the frequency to release it properly. And with all of the changes that we're even seeing within the living grid, for those of you that aren't familiar with the living grid, it's so many people have heard of Gaia and the ley lines that run across it. Many of those have been manipulated. There have been religious organizations that have put churches or places of worship on top of the vortexes of the ley lines. And it's actually created like a matrix energy. So a false frequency that run of control and manipulation that runs through those lines. So they've harnessed the energy of the ley lines. The living grid, um, it now, because all of this, what I just described, has been superimposed on the top of it. The living grid, for us to access it, we kind of have to go a little bit below that. So below those caps. And the living grid is the true authentic frequencies, that the harmonics that run through Gaia. And so it's ever so important that we understand all of this, because they're houses. For example, if somebody might go in, a beginning healer might go in and want to do a clearing on a home, not realizing that home may be on one of these energy centers for the ley lines, and it may have a vortex that's open in it. And so they'll go in and clear the house, but they're not closing the door. And so many things are just coming up right behind it. And all of those things are going to attach to that healer, because in the world of energy, you've now just provoked what you're trying to release. Because when you release a false light agent, you're provoking them. They don't like that. So if you cannot hold your frequency and do not know what you're doing, to alchemize again that frequency medicine, to push something out with the opposing frequency, then they will leap onto you and attach to you, and they can cause an immense amount of havoc. With you, health, they seem to really love to go after your health and your abundance. Drop your abundance lines down and decline your health, because they realize that those two things impact people the most. Also, if you're constantly battling them, trying to release them and things like that, they can have a tendency to hop onto a spiritually weak member of your family, as someone that doesn't necessarily believe in, divinity, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't have to be God. It's never, in my experience, is never what any organized religion makes it out to be. There's that golden thread of truth in every single religion, but it's not on mark. It's in the middle. And so if you don't have some type of connection within your own perspective or context of what you would like to call source or divinity, they will attach to you very quickly, because you as they say, if you don't believe in something, you'll fall for anything. You're easily manipulated. They can easily go in there and pull you off track and out of balance. So again, it's the importance of understanding what we're dealing with, and understanding your boundaries, and understanding how to protect yourself before you go in and play with these things. So if you don't understand entities or attachments, if you don't know how to read them, read the frequency of them to properly eliminate them, it's best to pretend like you don't even see them. Because if you pretend like you don't see them, they won't see you, and they won't attach to you. They will consider you um, a non-threat, because you can't see them. And so really important when we're beginning is don't mess with any of that stuff. Let yourself advance and move through everything properly and learn. And then when you're able to see it, when you're able to play with the energetics and hold the energetics, then you can let it go and release it. But definitely don't do that in the beginning. It just causes an immense amount of problems. I've seen people's entire families fall apart because they'll play in realms, and family members will get an immense amount of attachments. And you can see this when, if you're a light worker, if you're, sorry, hiccups, if you're someone that's interested in doing energy work, and you begin dabbling, start playing around in it, and you start noticing members of your family behaving differently, behavioral changes are a big sign. So really pay attention that if you've been dabbling and you have family members that their behavior starts changing, they start becoming antagonistic, maybe emotionally aggressive. Physically aggressive is more towards the end, when they have an infestation. They can become incredibly aggressive and very emotionally and physically manipulative. But that's always the longer that the attachments stay reside within that person, the more they begin to take over control of that person. The longer they're in there, that the more that they become um, the driver in the human vessel. And so the longer they're there, the more you're going to be able to see that attachment coming through, and less and less the person, your family member, coming through. So watch for those personality changes. Watch for just a density or a heavy feeling in your home, in your house, erratic emotions. Watch for declines in your health, your abundance, um, just everything. Those are pretty big signs that something's going on. Also taking into consideration, common sense. This year's a crazy year, so most people are impacted financially. So take those things into consideration, of course, when you're evaluating if something has made it through in your home. And that's where, when we have those situations, that's also why throughout history they've used blessed salt and water and things like that. That's definitely did not come from Catholicism. That's been used far, far before that. And those are some of the tools that practitioners will also use when they're doing clearing. So that's why it's ever so important to understand everything. And as I was saying at the beginning of the call, we never use just one tool. When we're dealing with something that is incredibly problematic, the stronger the attack frequency, the longer that the energy has been there, then we have to use more and more tools to push it out. We have to, what we call, boost it. So as an alchemist, we'll pull in as many energetics from as many different sources as we can, and such as the salt or the water. And we'll combine it all and use that to push it out, because there's something about sodium that most anything like a demonic frequency or anything like that, they do not like the frequency of sodium. So we use sodium a lot for things like that. So it's important to understand your limitations, your boundaries, your knowledge. It's important to understand where you're sourcing your information. Does this information that you're using, um, does it have any overlays from organized religion or anything like that? Because what I've noticed is within organized religion, most of their tools have been bound to fit within the energetic context of that particular religion. So let's say, for example, a lot of Catholicism, within a lot of their tools, there's a lot of third eye binding. They actually don't want people, and if you're Catholic, just if you don't resonate, just let this flow through you. It's just fine. This is just my perspective and my experience. They do a lot of your innate center. You need an intermediary such as Yeshua or a priest to intercede on your behalf before source. And so there's a lot of binding and shutting down of your divine truth within your third eye, your connection into the truth of your divinity and your co-creation potential with source. And so really watch some of the tools that you're using and make sure that they're not bound, because they will not work properly. They can actually bind you into the exact thing that you think or believe you are releasing. And so after this short break, we'll come back and we'll dive into more points of consideration when ascending. Hey everyone, welcome back to SoulFull Travel Adventures. And today we're discussing how to protect yourself and fully acknowledge your gifts, your boundaries, your protection while you ascend, while you do your work. because I know that's a goal of so many people right now. Everyone's beginning to try to come online. Some people are choosing not to, some people are resisting, some people are opening their arms to the expansion and diving right in. So, another point that I would like to bring up that I see people using all the time is symbols. Symbolism, I see a lot of people using symbols as boosters, which is absolutely great as long as you understand, again, the energetics of the symbols, the rotation of the symbols, and things like that. Because one of the funniest tricks that false light agents love to use is inversion. They love to invert the truth. So, a lot of the information that people are being exposed to, especially I'm noticing within the new age dynamic, is inverted truth. It's actually been superimposed. So it'll actually do the exact opposite of what you think it will. Again, if you can't read the energy and can't see into exactly what you're using and what you're intending to create with it, you can't read the pattern that will be formed by whatever it is you're using. So it's ever so important to understand, especially the rotational spin of things. Um, I see a lot of people posting, especially recently with all of this Q stuff and all of this going on, what symbols are bad. So I think it's important to point out that symbols in and of themselves are a neutral tool. It's the intention and the energetic that the practitioner is infused into that symbol, that either makes it a tool for good or a tool for, what we would deem as evil. And so one of the most interesting things that I see is the spiral has been demonized a lot, which is a really ancient symbol, and it's a power symbol. We use it for creation, to boost creations, but it must have a clockwise rotation. So what's important to remember with rotation is clockwise means that you're sending the energy out. It's the energetic of connecting into light and spirit. It's a masculine energetic. It's what we use to send something out. It's the energy of, so if you want more abundance, you'd use the clockwise rotation of the spiral to send that intention out. Counterclockwise rotation is the exact opposite. It's to pull energy in, and it's a feminine frequency, and it's darkness and earth. So it's because it's that going down and in. And so that's what we would use if we want to take the energy away from something. So banishing, or if you want to discreate something, you want to take away its energy. If you want to, if someone's using an energetic against you, then you would use that clockwise rotation to pull it in so that it's no longer affecting you. So there's actually a lot involved in the practice of energy. It's incredibly complex. It's beautiful, it's fun, it's exciting. It truly does enhance and boost your life. I've seen it create miraculous things. I've also seen it create some crazy situations when it's used improperly. So it's just important to understand the basics and have a strong foundation of information and wisdom if this is truly of interest to you. If you truly want to understand energy work, if you want to do it, if you have an interest in anything, metaphysical, esoteric, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, that all of those terms utilize energy. And so it's important that you understand energy. And so, if, as always, if anyone's interested in going deeper, I do have a course that teaches all of this and much, much more. It's an absolutely huge course, has all of my top packages in it. So you can master your frequencies and you can activate all 13 helixes. You can learn the basics of energy. Just tonight, we're having our group call on blessing salt and water that you can use in a plethora of different ways. I've even made blessed water that I drink with some rose nectar in it. So to keep the frequencies really clear and high. And we are learning about the star seed, earth seed structure. We will be going into symbolism next week and learning about rotation. And so all of the foundation, all of the basics are in there. It teaches you everything you could possibly need to know: tarot, crystals, um, animal, animal totems, everything's in there. And then it even has at the second part of the course is the lightpreneur course. So it teaches you how to build a business with a plethora of different modalities, sessions or telesummits or MP3s or whatever you desire to do, how to build that up, and the tech that you would want to use. And so that's available as always on my website at soulfultraveladventures.com. So if that's interesting to you, I would highly recommend it, or any other course that resonates. It doesn't have to be mine. Mine won't resonate with everybody, but please learn the foundational basics so you don't end it up pulling anything in that could have a propensity to cause a little bit of havoc in your life. No one wants to deal with all of that crazy stuff that can happen and cause everything you desire to create to go out of alignment. And if you're a beginner and you're just wondering how you can even begin to connect in and amplify things in your life, especially this year, there's a lot of truth to vision boards. And I would use that as a basic starting point if you're new to all of this, but want to begin moving some energy on your own. Put things that really resonate with you on your vision board. You can cut pictures out of magazines, you can draw them yourself, you can write words on it, but make sure when you're doing it that it truly has the exact frequency of what you want. If anything feels off on what you're putting on your vision board, don't put it on there, because you will infuse that into it and it will pull it off a little bit. So make sure it's on mark. Put it somewhere you can see it every single day, because the entire point of a vision board is it's focusing your energy. It's helping your brain, your RAS system in your brain, your filtering system. What it's doing is it's kind of setting the perimeters for your RAS system so that it's saying, this is important to me and I want to focus on that. So if anything arises within my day-to-day life that's a harmonic match to anything on my board that I desire, I'm going to see it. So what your filter does is it kind of pulls it forward, and you see those opportunities that are before you so that you can anchor into them. So they truly do work. There's grounded science within how it works biologically, energetically, all of it. So try it out, try a vision board, see how it works for you. If you're new, if you're old, I still recommend vision boards as an amazing tool. They really do help you focus and stay on track. So much love, many blessings. I hope this served you all well, and infinite creation potential. Until next time, bye guys.